According to a 2009 study by the Boston Consulting Group, women are poised to drive the post-recession world economy due to the estimated $5 trillion in new female-earned income that will be coming online over the next 5 years. Well, to help us shed light on what appeals to women and what sells, I have MD for 34 Women, Judy During, editor of Marie Claire, Aspasia Karras, Dentyne Brand Manager, Andrea Fell, and our guest host, CEO of the Jupiter Drawing Room, Renee Silverstone. Well, welcome, ladies, to the show. I would like to start with you, Judy. We're talking about the rise of the female consumer. So can you take us through a bit of history as to how, in the past, females were marketed to?
I think before we even get to how females were marketed, we need to understand their purchasing power and why they, if they weren't marketed to. And what we did is we took a step back and we looked over the last 9 years, because globally we're seeing the rise of the female consumer. We're seeing reports from Goldman Sachs about the power of the purse. We're seeing MasterCard and their discretionary spend. Everyone's talking about this female consumer, yet nobody's understanding them or marketing them in a relevant way. You often see the big insurance companies going on the fear factor, but women don't respond to fear. They respond to a nurturing, more empathetic approach.
We're more emotional, aren't we?
We are definitely more emotional. So to scare us is not going to, build loyalty or drive sales. Is you need to understand us, where we're coming from, and then market to us relevantly.
So now, do you think that women are now competing on the same field or a level field than men, or do you think we're getting there still?
We're definitely getting there. I mean, the Goldman Sachs study saw a narrowing in the gender gaps with regards to income, employment, financial status, health, and even political representation. So it's definitely narrowing, but we've still got a long way to go. I mean, according to the research, women earn 48 cents to the dollar compared to the man. So we're earning half of what men are still earning.
Judy, as far as South Africa is concerned, we know that the inroads have been made by females in the American market substantially.
Yes.
How do you find the market has grown from a female consumer perspective in our country?
Well, what we did is we looked back and we said, to obviously get a job, you need an education. So we started, is there an increase in literacy rates? So we saw, though there's small increases, we saw about a 3% increase in literacy rates. We then went to full-time employment, which we've also seen an increase in. We then went to disposable income, and we've seen in the bracket of 10 to 20,000 a month, an increase of about 4%. So the market is definitely growing. And what research tells us, the more money a woman brings into the house, the stronger her bargaining power is in the household purchase decisions.
Absolutely.
So would you then say we're in a female consumer boom? Or do you think we're going towards that?
I'd say South Africa is lagging behind the rest of the world at the moment, but there's no doubt that there's been a huge growth in terms of the role of the female in our country and disposable income. And we do know that the female is the backbone of our society.
I mean, 28% of households are led by women in South Africa, and only 20% globally are led by women. So there is definitely a strong female consumer.
I think what was interesting, just in terms of what we're talking about with the statistics, like in the US, this is the first year I think that there are more women employed in the US than men. But in South Africa, the recession hit us in a completely different way, and most of the jobs that were lost were in fact women's jobs, which I think is quite fascinating.
We saw a decrease in part-time employment and self-employment, but an increase in full-time employment over the last 5 years.
And is that what gives us the power of the purse? To make the buying decisions?
Definitely, as you have more disposable income, you may have more decisions, and we're seeing a shift from the traditional female categories into the male categories, from gamings to cars to investment products. So it's definitely shifting what the women are.
Well, I think in our society, basically, I mean, women used to stay at home in the old days, and it wasn't that long ago. And they used to be given an income or a budget from their respective partners, and that is what they had to spend. Now that they've got their own money, the choice is theirs.
Different story.
And they definitely are dominating, and women know what they want out there, and they're choosing, they're making their choices.
But there's also influence on the property market, surely, and the motor vehicle industry, where maybe a wife would say to the husband in terms of purchasing decisions exactly what they want to drive, where they want to live.
I mean, we've seen an increase in home ownership from 80% to 84%, and also in car ownership. But just to go back to your point, Renee, what's really interesting in the shifts that we see in the female market now is, long ago you used to earn your money, you spent it on your household, and you bought yourself a little treat. Now women are proud of their successes. They don't want to hide it, and they want to enjoy their successes. They still look after their family, but they also now not that embarrassed to go buy the pair of shoes or go and spend it on a holiday.
I think there's probably also a greater rise in female-headed households and single mothers.
Single mothers.
Yeah. So purchasing power is expanding from that sense as well. Don't need to look to the man to determine what they're going to be spending.
And marketers are actually coming up with products specifically aimed at the female market.
Because there's a whole new opportunity here, isn't it, for marketers?
Absolutely. You know, I read in one of the articles that it was particularly in the financial industry that they were lagging behind. And if you look at in our market, like First for Women from an insurance point of view, the apps are tailor-made products, etc. You know, it's really... there was something else where I saw there was, instead of having the Swiss Army knife, there's the Miss Army knife. And they've got a needle and a thread and a little mirror and a tweezer. And so there's a whole new ball game out there.
But let's talk to Andrea, because Andrea is a marketer. She's the brand manager for Dentyne. So how do you adapt your marketing strategies if you, because it's pointed at females specifically, your brand?
Really, with Dentyne specifically, I think what's important is, number one, convenience. I think that the fact that women are working, women are raising families, are the head of households, there is a necessity for more convenient products. I think, secondly, beyond just convenience, there's a more focus on health and well-being. So from a consumer perspective, it's understanding these needs and answering them, and looking more at the consumer insights that we're marketing our products that are based solely on women. I think in the past, consumer insights looked broadly at the total market, whereas now we're focusing specifically on women and understanding what women want, what women need.
And also the creative strategies. Aren't they different? Because if you're just looking at women exclusively.
Well, totally. I think that if you're talking exclusively to a woman, you are going to tap into their insights and what appeals to the female psyche. And those are very, very specifically focused on, you know, female-related products. But if you're talking to something that's unisex, you're going to have a totally different approach, you know, where there's a male and a female appeal. But I also, you know, from our perspective, it isn't so much is it a female market or a male market. It's also more about the psychographics of the people, because you can have a high-powered female executive who's no different psychologically or in terms of their desires as their male counterpart. So there it's about positioning, you know, a brand that appeals to both genders.
Sorry. For me, I think there's also just a move in terms of the brand values, things that brands as a whole are trying to impart. And in a way, I think that's because women's values are becoming stronger. So I think you see it in the way people position their brands, and they talk about communities and investment in the long history of a brand. That sort of stuff really appeals to women, but it's becoming something that I think has transcended gender.
Do you think generally that women are more brand loyal than men?
I think definitely women are.
Your opinion, Judy?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's the growth of the care economy that we're seeing at the moment. And women, they look at a company and it's not even about your green credentials, it's how you treat your staff and the value that your product gives you as well. And I think a woman, she remains loyal to her brand as long as it delivers, and a word of mouth is incredibly strong in women, because you'll never tell your friend if you're not happy with the brand. If you love a brand, you will then tell everybody how great it is.
It's almost like men just want to purchase, women want to build a relationship, isn't it?
They're more analytical and goal-oriented.
Let's leave it there for now. There's no doubt that print is a cutthroat industry, but what sets the top media owners apart from the rest is how they communicate to their target audience, identify what they want, and deliver this successfully. Well, editor of Marie Claire, Aspasia Karras, focuses on the lifestyle of a Marie Claire woman and the language that appeals to this audience. So tell us, who is the Marie Claire woman?
Well, she's somebody that thinks smart and looks amazing. Essentially, I think that's basically the bottom line.
Now, what I think is interesting about Marie Claire is that you tackle social issues that are relevant to women, and sometimes getting mixed feelings as you go along. How do you take care of that?
I mean, I think for us, we don't tone down the information that we're trying to give to our audience. We provide a package that is all about, I mean, to reiterate, thinking smart, but also looking amazing, because I think women have reached that point. I mean, it's precisely what we're saying here. And the Marie Claire brand, since 1937, when we launched back in Paris, has always been about this, like an empowered woman. We're not waiting for her to arrive. She's arrived. And we're speaking to her as that person who is consistently at the top of her game, whether it's like thinking about, oh, well, you know, what does plastic surgery really mean in the world? Then we'll run an amazing photo reportage like we did in our April edition. But at the same time, she wants to look amazing, so we treat her in that way.
It's a holistic approach, isn't it? Okay, so
but I think more critically, I mean, just on the subject that we're talking about, it's about creating communities. And I think there is a Marie Claire community, and we wanted to talk to her more intimately. So we started a blog when I started at Marie Claire, and I think blogs are a very interesting, you know, social phenomenon. Twitter, all of that, but there's the constant engagement every day with our world.
I think consumers are demanding that. Consumers are becoming more and more demanding and want to engage with the brand. So it's great to know.
But also to talk in that voice that's about, so who are these people who are doing the magazine? Let's talk to them every day. And so I mean, we got this amazing response instantly, and with commentary and people engaging and sending us pictures and tweets, and
do they engage with each other? Are you finding that there's a lot of interaction between your readers?
Absolutely. So that's what that blog provides, a forum to create that community. So they talk.
Where do you sell your most copies?
Johannesburg, which is why I'm appointed here. I think
you're doing something right.
Yeah.
How, Judy, let's look at the publishing market. How important is innovation, would you say?
In publishing, I think innovation is vital. The world is moving so quickly, and people are going to, and with the internet and all the other media out there, people are looking for innovation. They're looking for new things. They're testing things. So you can't afford to lag behind. You go into the beauty industry, a lot of that is based on technology. We always want to look better, have something that works better.
So how do you ensure that you stand out, because you're part of Associate Magazine, so you, within your stable, you're actually competing with other publications. So how do you ensure that Marie Claire actually stands out and becomes top of mind?
I think Marie Claire, for me, is about staying true to the brand values. So really providing that amazing in-depth journalism, and at the same time being the top fashion brand that it is. Which we are, and so pushing those production values, the boundaries, doing more exciting things, which we do. So we've done a whole lot of shoots coming up in Paris. We just did New York.
But I think it's also really staying authentic, so staying true to who you are, because a woman can see right through it, but it doesn't mean you can't innovate. You've just got to remain authentic.
It's very distinctive, and you'll find that a Marie Claire reader will continue to read Marie Claire. You've got Cosmopolitan out there, you've got the Fair Ladies, but they're all totally different in terms of their content and their appeal to the consumer at the end of the day.
How would you say the South African lady compares to a European lady if you're talking about reading a female consumer magazine?
I think, I mean, what was really interesting is we were just in the Marie Claire International Conference in Paris, and there were like 36 international editions there, and what was fascinating was seeing where the commonalities were. I mean, it was fascinating in Asia, just speaking about beauty products. They've just launched a Marie Claire Beauty, and it immediately sold like 1 million copies, because clearly that's where their focus lies at the moment, in beauty products, which was fascinating to me. But I think consistently throughout, this is a brand that appeals to a particular woman, and it is the woman that we're speaking to. It's the high LSM. It's the woman who has a disposable income, who is actuated in her life. And those commonalities stretch across like Australia, the US.
They want the latest trends as well. They want to know what's happening, be they international or local.
And they want it packaged in a way that is instantly both like extremely high production values, which I think we
the high gloss and
it must feel really
because
like
it's
you
part
get
of
what
you.
you want in your
magazine. Aspirational.
It's like buying a bag. You know, you want to be seen with a proper.
But that it must be again genuine and authentic.
And authentic,
It must speak to those values.
Andrea, how important is research here?
I think to a large extent research is exceptionally important, but I'm still of the opinion that research can do so much, and still 10% needs to rely on magic and gut feel. something that I think a lot of marketers don't rely on enough. And I think just back to what you were saying is that South African women are getting more demanding. We demand what the rest of the world is wanting. We don't want to be left behind. And I think just in terms of the brands we see women using these days, we are getting more demanding. We're getting more in the know, which is fantastic. So I wouldn't compare consumers. I wouldn't say consumers here, female consumers,
are any different to anywhere else.
And there's an array of international products here for those needs.
Sure.
Exactly.
Aspasia,
They're growing. In fact, what I got confirmation, I felt so proud because the CEO of Dior came to speak to us, Sydney Toledano, who's a fascinating man, who was speaking precisely about what we're talking about now. And it is about the authenticity of a brand, going back to its roots, but also the innovation. So, I mean, you know, they've done those like amazing films. They're just shot with David
You have to keep evolving and keep relevant to your audience.
But he said they might open a standalone like store, fashion store in the next years. I was like, yay.
Exactly. And I think there are brands like Chanel even, if you go back to Coco Chanel, and how Chanel has sustained itself as a brand in terms of its innovation and its ongoing appeal to that sophisticated woman.
Would you say, Aspasia, that you've crossed cultural barriers or taken them down?
We have.
Because of your social issues and what you actually discuss within your magazines.
We have, what's really interesting is also just who is growing, because I mean, whilst we've maintained that like very high LSM 8 to 10 grouping, and that grouping is, the majority is in fact black, which I think is great. It says so much about our country and where we're going. We're also growing this sudden spike in like youth numbers, and I think those are like university students who are looking forward to a full-blown career, but at the same time, you know, so they might not have like a huge disposable income, but they're interested in the articles we're putting in there,
and they aspire
to that fabulous fashion.
Just very quickly, your concerns around or your take on the concerns around publishing industry and the future thereof. It's on everyone's lips.
Of course it is, and I think that for me the response, you need a two-pronged strategy. I like that word, pronged. But you need to think, on the one hand, how am I going to? I don't think magazines will ever disappear because they have that tactile magic quality.
Habit, it's part of life.
So you feel that it's like, and you're sitting with your friend and you're enjoying it. And so the production values have to be extremely high and rise in that context. And then you have to create a community.
I'm social media network strategy is the way to go.
But it's true. You really do. And it's not just about slapping on a website and saying, here is the content that you can get anywhere else. It's about saying, how are we going to engage you every day and make you feel warm and engaged with our brand.
And we've seen social networking and media has grown substantially in this country, and particularly in the 25 to 49-year-old sector.
We're very excited about Marie Claire, but we're going to have to leave it there for now.